take a second to talk about the fact that this is literally such a stereotypical fangirls room. We've got posters over here, concert tickets there, signed Nick Jonas posters there. Hello, guess who is back after a long time? So something happened last week that I honestly never thought I would be sitting down and making a video about. I met Dan and Phil. Oh my god! So Dan and Phil are doing a tour at the moment which is called The Amazing Tour Is Not on Fire, and they brought it to Australia. You do not know how happy I was when they announced the Australian tour dates, because no one ever comes here. So of course my ass was straight on that shit and I got a ticket straight away the day that they went on sale. The second, not gonna lie, I did not talk for about a week because I could not believe that I was going to be meeting Dan and Phil did 2 shows in Perth, the city that I was seeing them in, and I had a seated ticket for the first show, and then for the second show I had meet and greet tickets because I'm poor and can't afford $250 to meet them twice. So the first show was really good, even though I didn't have meet and greet. I loved it. The audience was a lot smaller, so it was a lot more, what's the word? Intimate. It was a lot easier to hear what they were saying than the second show, where the whole venue was sold out. But anyway, that's not what you guys clicked on this video for. You clicked on this video because you wanted to hear me talking about what it was like meeting Dan and Phil, and my god, you are not even ready. We checked in and we went into this little room. It was between 150 and 250 people that had meet and greet. There were a few seats in the room. There are some tables with food and shit. I'm pretty sure it was just lollies. I could not eat because I was like, I'm meeting Dan and Phil today. I can't eat. I haven't eaten in the past week. So basically in this room, there were seats all around the outside, and then at the front of the room, which we will say is here, there was a wall, of course, because it's a room. Opposite to that wall, there was a backdrop where Dan and Phil would be standing to take photos, and everyone was to line up around the side, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense and it looks like I'm just doing the Macarena or something with my hands. So everyone had to line up around the outside, and then you'd go in 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 and you would meet the gods of YouTube. So while everyone was waiting in this room for Dan and Phil to come in, some random girl, I have no idea who she is, walked to the front of the group and said,
"When they walk in, I'm gonna count to 3, and then on 3 we're gonna say, 'Hello Internet.'"
Cool. I turned to my friend Ali, who I was with, and I said, look, Dan's gonna turn around and he's gonna be like, "Bye Internet." That's their first impression of all of us, this big group of girls and a few boys saying, "Hello Internet." So the lady came out, who I'm assuming was their tour manager, and she started explaining how the meet and greets would run. You're only allowed 1 photo, it has to be a selfie, and you're only allowed 1 object signed. She basically told everyone that they would be rushed in, you would say hi, you would take a photo, and then you would leave. $250 well spent on a good 5 seconds with them. After she explained this, she said to everyone, right, we're gonna have to bring Dan and Phil in because they need to walk past you in order to get to the backdrop. Be calm, calm your tits, be chill. But obviously when you tell a room full of young children who idolize celebrities to be calm when these celebrities are a meter away from them, that is not gonna happen. I mean, I wasn't calm. I was not calm. I was like, the door opened and we all stood there in anticipation, which felt like we were waiting for years, honestly. I will insert a clip of when Dan and Phil walked in. Dan's like, bye. Oh my god. I'm pretty sure that myself and Ali were the only people that didn't actually say, "Hello Internet." Sorry, Dan. Everyone sprinted to be first in line. Before I actually went into the meet and greet, I was deciphering, do we go first in line? Do we go in the middle of the line? Do we go towards the end, or do we go last? Going first, you'll be the first people they notice. They're not gonna be sick of meeting people, so they're gonna wanna like strike up a conversation. So when we saw everyone flooding to the front of the line, we were like, well, there goes that plan. We kind of decided, okay, let's go last. There are 4 of us waiting, sitting down. We all just sat there on Twitter the whole time. We have to take a selfie. What pose are we gonna get? It is pretty hard to take a selfie that's original. My options were either the one where you all hold hands because it's cute, or the one where you peace and pout because, you know, I'm so original. Although I did have my heart set on doing a standing pose. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna find someone to talk to and ask them if we can do a standing pose because we're gonna be last in line. So while we were waiting to get in line, they had music playing, and apparently Dan and Phil specifically chose this playlist. So when my boy, Nick Jonas, came on, you know, I was twerking, well not really, I was just sitting in my seat going, close. It was awkward as heck when they decided to put the Pokemon song on the playlist, and me being the only person in the world that does not have Pokemon Go, I had no idea what this song was. This whole room full of people under the age of 15 started singing Pokemon, like gotta catch 'em. I don't know how it goes. That was pretty awkward because I thought I was there for a Dan and Phil meet and greet, not a meet and greet for the cast of Glee. I'm such a bitch. I'm just kidding, I'm trying so hard to be funny and it makes me seem like a mean person. Let's jump about an hour and a half. Yes, the meet and greets ran for that long. We decided we would get up and get in line because the line was starting to draw to a close. So we're like, oh, we want to make sure we don't actually miss it. So I shotgunned being the last person, and I'm talking last, as in everyone, my friends, me. So whilst we were waiting in line, a lady came around and she was checking that we all had our wristbands to prove that we were actually allowed in meet and greet and we didn't sneak in. We all asked her, could we get a standing pose? We're the last people in the line. We really don't want a low qual selfie to remember this day by. I just want to pose with my squad. Surprisingly, she actually said yes. She did say the only thing we couldn't do was do a photo with them where they would be bending or squatting or involving any kind of movement, because apparently they just come from stage rehearsal and they like couldn't feel their loins. Wow. They couldn't feel their limbs, which I mean me when I do exercise. It can't be anything that involves like weird bending and shit. She can't guarantee that the security guard who's taking the photos will take a lot of photos. She said you're most likely only gonna get one single photo. It's not gonna be like when you take a selfie and Dan takes like 50 or puts it on burst, so it takes like 1,000,000 photos. You know what? I was willing to risk it. I really did not want a selfie because let's be honest, when I take a selfie I look like this. So my friends started going in and it was literally my friend Ali, and then me. We were at a point where we could see Dan because Dan was the first person you see when you walk around. The moment that I saw Dan, all I said was, oh my god, he's so tall. I'm not kidding. He's a literal giant. My fear was that I was going to go in there and I was going to forget how to English, which I just did just then. Wow. I was gonna forget how to English, forget how to breathe, and just make a complete fool of myself, which was something I did not want to do. I was like, okay, Dion, you have one chance to talk to them and you better not screw it up. The security lady who was like ushering me in said to me, what are you getting them to sign? Stupid idiot that I am. I left my book at home, and home is 10 hours for me, not like a 10-minute drive. Hey, I have 2 tickets. One from the Friday show and one from the Sunday show. There are 2 of them, Dan and Phil. Maybe I can get them to sign them. Math. Although, as the lady did say, literally only one item. Pushed both of my tickets together and made it look like I just had one ticket, and I was just holding my ticket as if I needed it to get in the meet and greet. And when she said to me, what are you getting signed? I was like, nothing. The lady was like, you can go in now. I walked around the corner and I was greeted by Dan, who turned his whole body dramatically towards me and was like, oh, hey. I said hi back. I was like, hey, and gave the security guard my phone. And the second that I walked up to him, Dan already had his arms open. He was ready for that hug, and like, God is real, seriously. He smells so good. And it gave him a really big hug, and I think because he's an awkward human being like me, he only hugged me with one arm at first, but I'm not lying when I say I felt that little motherfucker's head on top of mine when he hugged me. I went to hug Phil and he's literally the cuddliest little bean in the entire world. Like, he's so much smaller compared to Dan, but he's still tall. I felt like a midget, and I'm honestly not that short. This is me. This is Dan. Literally, that looks really wrong, but that was literally what it was. I said to them, how are you guys going? Like, are you having a good day? And Phil was like, oh, we're having a great day. Thank you so much. And Dan was like, yeah, it's been really good. How are you? And I was like, I'm so good. I'm pretty sure I said it in that voice as well. Why did I just make my own sound effect? Dan looks and he saw me holding my tickets in my hand, and the cute little piece of shit said, can we please sign your tickets? He literally asked for my permission. Like, I gave Dan the tickets and he gave Phil one, and if you see right there, that's the little tickets that they signed. Memories. And while they were signing them, I asked them if they were enjoying Australia. I said, have you guys enjoyed Australia so far? Did you have a safe trip here? And Phil was so grateful for everything. He was just like, yes, we had the best trip. Thank you so much for asking. Dan, like, restands himself, puts his hands on his hips and he's like, okay, but I'm so glad that we came in your winter, because I couldn't imagine how hot summer would be. Like, summer would be so hot. Like, it's hot now. I didn't respond with it. Yeah, it does. It gets really hot in Australia in summer and winter. No, I didn't say a normal response. I said to Dan Howell and Phil Lester, I know, it's 19 degrees and I'm sweating. I literally told Dan and Phil that I was sweating. What the fuck, Dan? Why did you just say that? I was so worried that their response was gonna be like, okay, leave. They laughed at my response. Dan was full on like chest clutching because he was laughing so hard, and Phil was doing that little chuckle when he does it. I decided to change the subject and I said to them, yeah, I actually came from a town that's 10 hours away from here. Phil looks up at me and goes, what the heck? And Dan turns and goes, oh my god, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, dude, you're fucking Dan and Phil. What am I gonna do, not come and see you? Dan just says, oh my god, like, thank you so much. Phil says, I don't know if he was talking to me or if he was talking to Dan or himself when he said this, but he was like, you realize that's literally half we traveled to get to Australia? I just laughed. I was like, I know, like, but you're cool. We were sort of just having like a laugh, and I think the security guard must have like ushered Dan or something. Dan was like, oh yeah, like we should probably take a photo now because we're just talking. And me, being loser me, said to them, can we take a squad photo even though I don't really know what they are? Why? I didn't know what pose I was gonna do, and they clearly didn't either. Dan is doing this in my photo. What kind of a gang sign is this? What's your favorite One Direction album? No! So we took the photo, it was cool. I look disgusting in my photo, but let's not even talk about that. And I turned back around. I honestly don't remember how I got my phone given back to me. The security guard was telling me to go. I was about to leave, but then I was like, no, wait. I grabbed onto Dan's arm because I had not finished talking. Oh my god, he probably thought I like assaulted him or something. This isn't like another Liam Chinese burn incident that he got from that fan back in like 2013. I just grabbed his arm, not like, I'm going to pull off that arm and I'm going to take it with me. I grabbed onto his arm and looked at the both of them and grab a bucket and get ready to vomit, because this is where it gets cringy. I turn to them and I say, you guys inspired me to make a YouTube channel, and today I hit 22,000 subscribers. I'll give you a second to vomit at that sentence. Go for it. I really don't blame you. As cringy as it sounded, I did want to tell them that because they did inspire me along with a few other people. Joe, Troy. I thought, you know what? I literally did hit 22,000. Thank you for that, by the way. An hour before I went into that meet and greet. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna tell them this. But their responses to me telling them that were honestly probably the best things I've ever seen in my entire life. I want to implant them in my mind. Phil was like, oh my god, congratulations. And Dan was like, holy shit, that's amazing, congrats. And like, he pulled me into a hug and hugged me again, but the fucking, this was my head, this was his head, and oh god, let's not even talk about it. I hugged him again and I did not want to let go because I was like, I know this is the last time I'm gonna hug them for like God knows how long. I hugged him and then I hugged Phil and it was exactly the same. I did not want to let go. I did not want this moment to end. I'm so emo. I'm trash. I am trash. So obviously I had to leave because I was already back there for a lot longer than most of the other people were. Phil just turned to me and he said, seriously, thank you so much for coming all this way. And I said, thank you for coming all this way. I just said to both of them, I was like, thank you for everything. Another hashtag cringe. Before I left, I, you know, had to be awkward again. Phil was wearing a fox sweater and it was the cutest thing in the world. And I went up to his shoulder and I rubbed his shoulder. Fuck, I can't believe I'm saying this on the internet. I went up to his shoulder and I went, oh, and I love this fox sweater, by the way, and rubbed his shoulder like 15 times. Good job, Dion, you made a fool of yourself. And Phil was like, oh, thanks. And in his head, he was probably like, this bitch is touching me. She just told us that she was sweating and now she's rubbing my shoulder. What is she doing? I just turned around and said, love you, bye, and walked out. I got my little wristband cut off. I got given a bag with like merch in it. There was a flower crown, there was a poster, and there was a wristband. As Dan and Phil had to come inside in front of the fans, they had to go outside in front of the fans, and they had to leave in front of all of us. They left and there was a book to sign where you could just write a message in it, and of course me, again, being a human failure, wrote in this book, thank you for being the best memes in the world. Maybe we should collab one day. Writes my YouTube link down the bottom. I thought it was really funny at the time, and now thinking back on it, I honestly want to blow myself up. That is the end of my meet and greet experience with Dan and Phil. Wow. Okay, so I'm just gonna be real for a second and say that they genuinely were the nicest people in the entire world. It just felt like talking to friends. They're amazing people. They're really, really kind. They're loving, they're gentle, they're awkward, but that's fine because I'm more awkward. So I'm very grateful for my experience, and I am very grateful that they got their asses to Australia, and they better come back soon because I miss them already and it's been a week. So that's about it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comments. Also, why not give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I honestly do not know what likes do. Be sure to hit subscribe down below so you keep up to date with every video that I post. I've also got Twitter, Snapchat, Tumblr, and Instagram, so be sure to go and follow me there and you can deal with more of my emo tweets. I hope you're having an incredible day. Thank you so much for 22,000 subscribers. I will talk to you in my next video. Bye! Even when I open my phone, I'm literally triggered.